Hello, everyone. Welcome back to your third edition of the Saturn Studs podcast. As always, I am Kurt.
And I am Peter. Hey, guys. Alright, so...
That was a very effeminate, hey, guys.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Welcome to the podcast. It's totally awesome, and you're going to love it. Yay.
Every.
That scared me a little bit.
Wait,
that came a little too naturally.
What was that, the Muppets?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a robot.
I came way too easily. Alright, so, episode 1 of FTL, episode 1 of FTL will be up, is already up.
Okay.
By the time you hear this, episode 2 might also be up. I don't know. I think I'm going to do it one episode for this week, which would have been episode 1, and then 2 episodes next week, and then 1, and then 2 the final week. Probably do it on Leap Day, because how often you get to do something on Leap Day.
Yeah.
So
I don't have any plans for Leap Day.
I don't have any plans for Leap Day. I was going to upload the last episode of FTL on Leap Day, because I can. Leap Day.
Followed by Jump Day? No.
No, it's just March 1st.
Yep.
There's no...
Followed by Track and Field Day.
Field Day. I remember Field Day in elementary school.
Oh, yeah. I remember, we did, a sponge race.
Sponge race?
Yeah, where you fill up a sponge from a bucket, and you have to relay the water into another bucket.
Wow. That is horribly lame. I thought the potato sack race was lame, but nope, that's worse. Terrible one was the 2-person potato sack races.
We never did those.
Oh, it was so
that sounds
weird.
Like bruises coming at you.
Yeah, it was not safe. I don't know how it got approved by the New York State Board of Education.
Maybe it wasn't.
Yeah. I think it was just the teacher's way of putting kids they didn't like in the Thunderdome.
Oh, that would be an awesome day. And then now I'm reminded of my favorite elementary school gym game, where it poison peanut butter.
Poison peanut butter.
Yup. It was awesome. So we had all these random ass gym props, little strips of I don't know, thick rubber plastic.
Right.
Belts, the little the butt scooters, gym mats. So what the teacher did was he laid out all this random props in the basketball court.
Right.
And he set a trophy on the other side, and we were in teams, and you couldn't touch the poison peanut butter, but you had to use the props to get everybody across the basketball court. It was fantastic.
Interesting. Yeah, we mostly played real sports at my school, handball and...
Oh yeah, we did that too. That just came later.
Such. There was this one game we played called Mat Ball.
Oh, Mat Ball? Yup.
Yeah, which was like baseball, but you could have as many people on the bases as you wanted, and you had to go around the bases twice.
It's like casual indoor kickball.
Yeah.
Oh
we actually played it where, it wasn't a baseball, but we, were swinging a bat at, a playground ball.
Oh, okay.
It was interesting.
That's weird. We just kicked it, and we were just if it touches the ceiling, you're getting out. So you can't do, the crazy-ass pop flies.
Yeah, and we had crazy, stickball rules for what was and was not a home run.
Mm-hmm. We never had jump. We just had, you just gotta go for it.
Just gotta go for it, man.
Oh, one more game before we get into our topics.
Okay.
I think it was called Angle Ball.
Angle Ball?
Yeah, and it was pretty sweet.
Did you throw protractors at each other? Was that the game?
Just 45 degrees. Ah! No. So it was a dodgeball in a net, like a basketball net, wrapped around it, and then it was strung through a PVC pole.
Oh god.
So it was kind of sitting 10 feet up on a pole, and you had your little handball, and the goal was, it was kind of like handball rules,
right? And
you had to knock the ball off of the pole with your handball. And that was the point. And you got 3-point shots, you go outside, and they had a little crease where the keeper was. It was pretty swag.
Right. So anyway, some news today. I don't know if this was revealed today, but I saw it today. So in my world, this was revealed today. There's a new Doom coming out. This would be Doom 4 canonically.
Okay.
Love me some Doom. Doom was going to be on my top 10 Genesis games, but then I realized it was actually a 32X game.
Yeah.
And I figured that would be kind of bad to count, because then I'd have to work Sonic CD in there, and I'd have 2 Sonic games, and it would be a mess.
Just a cluster.
Yeah. But anyway, new Doom. Bethesda's developing it, which...
Interesting.
Yeah. The last time Bethesda took a game franchise I loved and Bethesda the fuck out of it was Fallout. I liked Fallout 3, it just was different.
Yeah, I don't want to see an open world Doom.
Yeah.
Free RPG. No. Okay.
No, Bethesda doesn't make RPGs anymore. Skyrim, Elder Scrolls Online, and Fallout 4 should tell you that much. Burn!
Dude, the profile on that.
Yeah,
There's a solid wall.
That's why we normalize the audio.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Who did BioShock? I feel really dumb for not knowing this.
It wasn't Insomniac shit. Well, BioShock 2 was 2K.
Did they go on to do BioShock Infinite? Alright, we're looking this up.
Yeah,
Because I'm thinking, like, if the
yes,
studio
they
did that...
do BioShock Infinite. Not 2K, but the original developers, I think.
2K...
No, it was... Oh my god. They did
Anyways,
System Shock too.
While Kurt's looking that up, basically, like, if they had those guys working on this game, on Doom, like, that'd be pretty solid.
Okay, I guess it was developed by 2K, but Ken Levine is the guy, the main guy.
That's pretty good. Ken Levine's he's pretty solid as a writer.
Yeah, was it Levine or it doesn't matter. So anyway, yeah, I would agree that would be good as well because he also did. I think he did System Shock 2, which was also not like System Shock 2. The game was good, but I meant System Shock 2 as an addition. Or as well.
TWO.
Yeah.
So I always ask at the new games, is there a gimmick? Is there a new, like, eye-catching feature?
Well, the trailer I saw was, like, censored.
Okay.
Like,
interesting.
No, that was, like, the whole point. It's like, oh, it's Doom. It's back to being violent and bloody and...
okay. That's the catch.
All that nonsense. So, check out the uncensored trailer. I did not check out the uncensored trailer because I was very lazy.
We'll look at that after.
Yeah, but the bullet points here is that it's coming out in May. And it was announced a couple weeks ago that Bethesda had a big announcement to make, or they were going to have a booth and some sort of presentation at E3 this year. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be like stuff about this Doom. And there's a $120 collector's edition of the game coming out. And for your $120, you get the game in a steelbook case, as is pretty much the standard with collector's editions these days, and a 1-foot figurine of a Doom demon.
Is it the big muscly one?
No, it's this like little gangly one with like a Blastoise pack on it.
Come on, you gotta give him a Caco demon or a fucking just the weightlifting demons.
But I really like Doom and Duke Nukem were a good, and Wolfenstein were a good part of my childhood, and they were all made by the same people. I'm pretty sure. I got exposed to Wolfenstein. Me and my friend Jared. I got this computer that was handed down to me from my Uncle Chris. And for whatever reason, I don't know what black magic conspired to make this possible, but if you were on your desktop and you hit enter, it would open Wolfenstein.
Oh.
And we found this out completely on accident.
That's just like, that's the mother right there, just like...
Yeah, this terrible, bloody, gory game that I was far too young to be playing at the time. I was like 6, maybe 7.
That's okay, that's when you need to learn these things.
Yeah.
From a video game.
Especially from a video game. It's the best teachers. I've learned so much from video games in my life. Which is actually less of a lie than it should be.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
No, I was my first video games were like, I was relegated to like my cousin's copy of Pokemon Yellow.
Right.
And that started my
That was a solid game.
It was. It started my long-running addiction with not actually doing my own progress in games. Like, just following my brother and be like, Tim, you finished the game. Now I get to play around your full file. Whee!
Yeah. I don't know. When I was in elementary school, I think I traded some card. I think it might have been a Yu-Gi-Oh card for a copy of Pokemon Yellow.
I think it's a worthwhile trade.
Yeah, it was a worthwhile trade.
I feel bad for the kid who's like, I want a Yu-Gi-Oh!
Because I had lost my copy of Yellow that I had gotten when I was like 4 or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll part with that for this. Cool story, bro. So, some other news that popped out to me when I was looking for other video game news, because I decided that would be something to talk about on this podcast, on a channel that revolves largely around video games.
Seems like an appropriate topic.
I saw that Sega Sammy's profits were up despite failing video game sales. So it seems like those pachinko machines are really doing some wonders for them.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's their main thing now is pachinko machines. Apparently, there's a huge in Japan.
Dude, have you seen those gambling games?
Yeah, they like freaking fill up the Tokyo Dome with pachinko machines and
yeah, and they're freaking video, like they're movies in and of themselves. Like, think pinball, but like there's an entire theme park inside the cabinet that like pops up, and they're like random spinny balls going everywhere, and then you go through like a shooter game to like fire at the laser blasts, and then drops down to a claw game, and then like a little man pops up. He's like, "You just won 10 million coins!" Whee! And like lights are flashing everywhere, and just like a rave starts going. Then you have to like outdance like the Disco Master and beat 12 levels of fucking Final Fantasy, and then you get the game prize.
That sounds like
I will show you pachinko videos.
Terrific way to gamble my money away. Is it gambling?
Like, almost.
Okay. Because I was under the impression that was gambling. This is probably wrong, but I, for whatever reason, thought it was like Plinko.
I mean,
but with gambling.
I mean, it really is. The basic versions are, it's like 10,000 little metal marbles just pop up out of the ground, and they just jump everywhere, and if they fall in a separate hole, you get like so many balls back. And at the end of the day, you can turn in whatever balls you have for prizes and coins and money.
Now, does that count your 2 balls that you're born with as a man?
If you want to give those up, sure.
I mean, a lot of Japanese businessmen would probably take that trade. That is bad. I apologize to any Japanese businessmen that are watching this. You feel free to spend large sums of money on some little girl's panties.
Yep. Get sober, take that tie off of your forehead, and get back to work.
And enjoy your large platters of french fries. I saw a picture of that.
Yeah.
Like those fry parties. And I didn't, like, fully believe you. Like, when you told me that was a thing, I just kind of nodded, like, yeah, sure, Peter.
Okay.
It's like one of Peter's many things that he tells me that I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that's a thing.
I just dribble trivia out my mouth hole every, 5 minutes.
Yeah, so I don't remember where it was, probably on Reddit.
Yeah.
And I saw a picture of it, like, oh my god, that's a real thing.
Like, what the hell?
Peter was just right.
Clamshell, like, styrofoam to-go containers full of french fries.
Yeah, they, like
5 of them.
Cleaned out this fucking McDonald's. It was crazy.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
No,
I want to have a McNugget
party. I feel like, yeah, I was about to say.
Party.
Yeah.
Because they have
I was about to say, I do the same thing with nuggets, man. Like, when Burger King's running that $1.50 for 10 nuggets, I'm like, I will have the normal food I would get at Burger King and 20 nuggets, please. Because it's not as fattening if you're saving money. Calories and dollars are correlated, right?
It's just making an order and having chicken and handling. Pay extra for tax.
That is one of your weaker puns.
I know. It's like when you're playing war. Sometimes you just have to play the 2. And just
Twos are wild.
What? What? No. In war?
Yeah.
I've never played that way.
That's the only way I've played.
What does that mean, though?
It means that it beats everything.
We usually save that for the ace.
Well, ace normally beats everything, but 2 is wild, so it beats the ace.
So it's just ace plus 1.
Yeah, essentially. Well, an ace can be a 1 or 11 in blackjack, so 2 is 1 higher than 1. Ergo.
That definitely reeks of a little bit of little kid logic. But I'll take it.
It's like infinity plus 1, you know?
Yep.
Or infinity times infinity.
Infinity.
Infinity squared. And then once you found about cubes... No, you didn't find out about cubes. Hopefully you'd outgrown the infinity raised stakes by the time you learned about cubing things.
And exponentials.
I would hope by such time you would have grown up a little bit.
See, and then you get back into it when you become an adult, and you do the thing where, like, they go for a challenge. It's not a challenge, but, you know, it's a fun honor to have, is the biggest number that you can use in actual mathematical proof that actually has a purpose.
Like, in a specific group of friends, this is maybe an accomplishment,
right,
but I think
professional
normal work friends don't care about mathematical proofs that you've done.
There's one dude's, like, number. I forget what it is.
Is it Avogadro?
No, it's bigger, much bigger.
Okay.
Like, do you know up arrow notation?
Yes, you've explained it to me a few times.
So it's like 2 up arrow, 64 up arrows, 2. Look it up. It's
why? Why is that a thing?
I think it's called Graham's number. You can look it up.
Graham's number.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've started looking things up on the show.
We are now internet studs.
Yeah. Graham's number, named after Ronald Graham. Well, that's a rough name to grow up with.
Ronald Graham
is a large number.
It's just a...
Thank you, Wikipedia. Graham's number is a large number.
It's
That's the upper bound on the solution to a certain problem in Ramsey theory, whatever the hell that is.
I don't know, man. But, because it takes 10... Yeah, it takes 10 minutes to explain what it actually is.
Yeah, I can't make heads or tails of this.
Yeah, it's gross. Look up a video on it, because they will explain it better, and it's kind of baffling.
Yeah, maybe after the podcast.
Yeah, I don't mean right now. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to our lovely listeners.
Okay.
With big ears.
Well, you were just kind of looking at me when you were doing that. I don't know if that was actually true or not. I was kind of looking in the distance, and your head was turned toward me, but that would also be turned toward the microphone.
I don't know. Peripheral vision's pretty solid. But nonetheless, I'll just bore into your eye sockets for the next 3 minutes.
Stare at my beautiful blue eyes. I'm like the one dude who has blue eyes that aren't, like, aggressively blue. Normally when people have blue eyes, they're like, I'm blue, motherfucker! Mm-hmm. But mine are like, yeah, it's blue, like, whatever, it's cool.
You save that for, like, blonde-hair, blue-eyed people, you know, you got your Norwegians, and then you have, like, the, like, Israeli people in the Middle East who randomly have, like, the most stunning blue eyes ever. That are just, like, gemstones in their face.
Yeah.
And they look at the camera for, like, the photographers, and they're like, this beautiful young refugee girl I found in a camp in blah, 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 and it's like, Stan.
Yes, I know that country. I think it's the southern border of Israel.
Well, that's like...
Right next to the curmudgeon Stan.
Crumb Stan. John Stan. But yeah.
What
the fuck were we talking about?
I don't remember, but I do remember this now. In Lit Sci-Fi 1, because I didn't take real English in high school.
Like, solid choice if you can do it.
Yeah, we had... I don't remember what it was. I think we were reading 1984. Mm-hmm. And,
Eat the chicken.
What the hell was it? Okay, yeah. And we had to, like, come up with our own dictatorship. And we were paired off in groups, and ours was called Kurdistan.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I just remember that because we were making up countries with stands in them. Yeah, that was a great segue to whatever the hell we were.
I remember what I was talking about. Graham's number, Ronald Graham, terrible name to have.
Right. I believe those were the bullet points.
Like, as an engineering person, I've always considered the idea, like, how would my name sound in front of the word, like, theory, or, you know, the Hoskins force, or the Hoskins principle. I like Bennett better. Like, the Bennett principle.
I think Hoskins sounds more like a sciencey name. Bennett is just too plain. It's like a name you put in front of your logging company. Not like your grand mathematical theorem. I'm pretty sure there is a Bennett logging company. I think I've passed it on the freeway before.
I feel like if I was gonna put my name on a science thing, if it was gonna be like the blank core for like a warp ship, I would use my family's old name, Lockhart.
Lockhart?
You have to activate the Lockhart core.
The Lockhart core. Something's going on in the Lockhart core. The ship's going critical. Or some other scenario.
Mr. Broccoli, go down and see it.
Mr. Broccoli?
Yeah, that was a start. I was reading stuff from Star Trek yesterday, and Lieutenant Barclay, who was basically the
the Barclay Center.
Yeah, he was the wimpiest wimp of like all of Star Trek.
Right.
He was just like a regular ass human.
Had the reddest of red shirts.
Even though it was Next Generation, so he was yellow.
I hated that change so much.
I know, but they had to distinguish it from the original series. So
but like, what shift would have caused them to be like, you know how we've had Command Yellow and Engineering Red for all these years? Yeah, let's switch that randomly.
I feel like they even bring it up in a couple of time travel episodes.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know that I've seen all the time travel episodes. I saw the one where Picard was Robin Hood.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those turned into like holodeck episodes.
Yeah, it was just something. It was a plot device introduced for the writers to do crazy stories.
I mean, it's a good plot device.
Yeah, I mean, like, it gives you a lot of leeway to be creative with your stories and whatnot.
Sometimes they're just like, we want to make a non-sci-fi story, so let's just do that.
Yeah, I mean...
but you should look up, another thing on your list to look up stuff, the log of the holodeck janitor.
Log of the holodeck janitor.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Because, like, it's just like these little journal entries written. It was on something awful. About just like, I can't believe. Because, like, think of what people would actually just do in the holodeck all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
He's like, I can't believe I have to deal with this shit on the day. Shit.
Yeah, that'd be terrible.
He's like, one of them was like, Captain Riker he just uses it all the time for whatever he wants because he's second in command. He gets like 7 hours a week, so he just goes in there and like he'll take a shower. He'll just poop in there. He'll imagine some fantastical cloud to make a dump on, and I have to clean the brown stuff up.
Yeah, that reminds me, like, whenever I think that, like, if ever you think your job is bad, just remember it could be worse. You could be the guy who cleans up the porn set.
Yeah.
It could be far, far worse, my friend. Far, far worse. Speaking of far worse, sequels.
Yeah.
Sequels are often far worse. So, what we wanted to talk about today is some of the most disappointing sequels, personally for us in our lives. Mm-hmm. So, I've asked you to think on this a little bit.
I have,
thought on this?
And I've come up with the fact that I don't watch a lot of sequels, and the ones I do remember...
Well, it could be like video games, movies, books.
Yeah. So, the first thing I thought of when I thought of, like, sequels, was a lot of, like, kids' movies. Because they love sequels, because you can just milk a series out of anything.
Yeah.
And when you think of bad kids' movie sequels, you think of the direct-to-video Disney sequels.
Yes.
Like, how many of them did they do for Aladdin?
Oh my god, so
it's
many.
Like freaking 4
Although
of them.
I will say, maybe it was just me being a kid. I liked Aladdin 3.
Oh yeah, I think there was like some good entertainment value. I think Aladdin, they did it good. I think it was the first one they did
well.
Yeah, because I think that was actually the first one that we were like, let's just make a sequel to the Disney movie. Have more Aladdin going on.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's do it. And then they realized that they could just do that. Always, yeah. And I think when I saw Mulan 2...
There was a second Mulan?
Yes, it was about her and the general, like the young boy general.
Yeah.
And they're like in love.
That was a subplot in the first Mulan, yes.
Yeah. And they're like yin and yang, and like I think the whole movie is like literally about that.
Yin and yang.
It was just, I don't even know, but that was like the moment where I realized like, wow, some of these are not good.
Yeah, I can't remember like the first movie I watched and like thought actively, yeah, this is not a good movie.
It was either that or Atlantis: The Lost Empire 2.
Jesus.
Which wasn't one movie, but 3 smaller movies.
Jesus Christ.
Because they're like, we don't have an actual plot to fill an hour and a half, so let's just have 3 half hour.
I think disappointing sequels. Like the first thing I thought was Star Wars Episode 1.
Yeah,
but since that's technically a prequel, Star Wars Episode 2 is a very disappointing sequel. Because you're like, okay, yeah, Episode 1 was bad, but that was just a misstep. Not everyone can be perfect all the time. We'll see Episode 2. This Boba Fett looking dude is in it. It should be good. But it was worse. It was far worse. It was the worst of the bunch. I can't believe they made that movie. It was so bad.
Just raw schlock.
So much, the whole movie really doesn't make any sense.
Nah. I love just watching people just be like, here's a plot hole, here's a plot hole, and you just get to watch it just fall to tatters.
It doesn't stand up to even slight scrutiny.
Yeah. You're just like, if you go one step past, ooh, fun color alien special effects, you're like, oh.
Yeah, which is why I liked it a little bit as a kid, but, as soon as I hit 10 and watched it again, I was like, oh no.
I just remembered that I have...
which was 2 years after it came out, now that I did that quick mental math.
I have a Star Wars 1 themed plastic cup with a pod racer top.
Yep, I had the cup and I had the plate.
Nice. I did not have the plate. I think I had an Anakin pod racing head thing, though. I don't know.
The hell?
It always sat in my kitchen next to the meat grinder, so...
the meat grinder.
And we would grind up ham, and I'd be like, can I have some of that ground up ham?
That makes me so happy for whatever reason that you had a meat grinder in your kitchen.
Just solid cast iron. Oh my gosh.
Some murder weapon.
We would grind up ham and spread it on toast, I think. All I remember is the grinding of the ham and being able to put it into the grinder and be like, it's getting squished and turning into ground meat.
I see a young Peter Hoskins enjoying that a little too much.
I mean, I would look at the screw and I'd be like, you put it in, and then the screw turns and it moves, but it doesn't move, and I was like mesmerized.
Is that that thing that you credit with getting you interested in engineering?
No,
because the thing I credit with getting me interested in engineering is I had the Game Boy Color that was transparent.
Oh,
and I could see all the circuit boards and stuff. I'm like, I want to know how that shit works.
No, the thing that got me into engineering was in late high school. I'm like, okay, my brother went to engineering school, and I'm kind of good at math and science. Let's do engineering.
You were one of those kids?
Yeah. Because I never really had a plan for what to do.
Yeah, I always hated those kids, because they're like, oh yeah, I can do math and science in high school. And I took a bunch of pre-engineering courses in high school, so I knew exactly what I was getting myself into.
I was
but people did it as a fallback. It's no, you have to want this shit.
Mm-hmm. I was a sign from God away from being an English major.
Thank God that sign happened.
No, if I had been got a strong push Peter, this can be your life. I'd be like, all right, time to do history major. The 2 history majors we have at Alfred.
Is it that many?
Oh, maybe it's 1. I've only ever seen 1. Though I feel like they're out there hidden in the shadows.
Hidden in the mist. Yeah.
Sequels.
So more about sequels, yeah. Another, in the video game realm, a sequel that disappointed me greatly was Dragon Age 2. Because I love me some Dragon Age Origins, a lot. Probably top 10 favorite game of all time. Then Dragon Age 2 came out. And all that stuff you liked about Dragon Age Origins? And I was like, yeah, none of it's in Dragon Age 2. I was like, oh, okay. What they did is they took Dragon Age Origins, which was a fantastic RPG, good story, interesting characters, the standard Dungeons and Dragons character building methods, and then they made Mass Effect 2. Now I like Mass Effect 2, but it works for Mass Effect. It does not work for Dragon Age. So what we were left with, Dragon Mass Effect Age 2.
The hybrid of both worlds.
And it was just a mess. It was
I can appreciate
just
that.
a mess. The one good thing about it, though, is that since it coincided, release year with Mass Effect 2, we got a cool crossover armor in Mass Effect 2, which was Dragon Age styled, and it actually worked really well. because I play Sentinel, and it gave you bonuses to power damage and power cooldown.
Nice.
That was the one good thing that came out of that game. The rest was just a massive disappointment.
Yeah.
Just took a dump on my dreams.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about video game sequels, and that reminds me, like, Golden Sun Dark Dawn. And that was... I enjoyed it, but looking back on it, it was disappointing because it was a game that harkened back to the original Golden Sun on the Game Boy. One of the stronger JRPGs on the Game Boy. Like, probably, like, one of the top ones.
Right.
Because it was a solid JRPG with a deep system, because what you had is... all the characters were magic users.
Right.
Right, but with different types of magic.
Okay.
And in addition to that, you had the Jinn, which were like collectible spirits that you found throughout your journey.
Okay.
And they were basically slotted into your character. And based on the combination of elements, your character changed classes or got different stat boosts. And they also were usable as their own like item. So if you used up a Jinn, like maybe your class changes from using the one that'll like stun your enemies or something for a little bit.
Right.
So it had all these really rich, deep elements, and it was so big they had to spread it across two cartridges.
Oh dear.
So they had a giant, like, super long password screen where you could import your old characters from the first game, and then your party meets them halfway through the second game, and then they join your party, so you have like a party of 8 people.
That's pretty interesting.
Oh, it's solid. And then they made Dark Dawn, which was good. It's just that it was kind of confused. Like, a lot of the bad sequels, I think of, when I think of, like, bad sequels, I think they're confusing and not too connected to the original. Because basically they changed the entire world map. I mean, they had to, but they didn't have to. You know, because then it's weird. Like, it's not even taking place in the same world.
Right, yeah.
Here's all these new places that you never heard of that should have been in the other games, but just suddenly appear.
Yeah.
And then, like, everything was good. It just wasn't deep enough, and it wasn't memorable enough for them to make a sequel to that.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for this a little bit, because for some reason people seem to like it. Generation 3 of Pokemon, was hugely disappointing for me.
Mm-hmm. I would be one of the ones to give you flack, but I want to listen to this.
Because, I mean, Generation 2 was an improvement in just about every way from Generation 1. Mm-hmm. You had 16 gyms, you had 2 regions to explore, you had new Pokemon that were still a lot of cool designs, and, you know, they were really useful. You got 2 new types, you got Dark and Steel. You know, it was all really quite awesome. Like, it was perfectly put together. You could spend a lot of time in Gold, Silver, and Crystal just doing stuff. There was so much post-game. It was really cool. And then when we get to Generation 3, yeah, it's nice, it's pretty, and it's got a bunch of new features in it, but all those features kind of sucked. Like, the secret bases were cool for, like, 5 minutes. Bases. The weather wasn't real. Weather was actually introduced in Generation 2. That's when we got Rain Dance and Sunny Day. So I can't even get credit for that.
The post game, I will agree, the post game on Gen 3 was weird.
Yeah, the post game was weak. It was super weak until you get Battlefront tier, which was okay, but
right, that's like
that's on
extra game mode.
Yeah. It was not much better than the Battle Tower was in Crystal. And all the, like, not all of Pokemon, most of the Pokemon designs in Generation 3 are terrible. They're just straight up bad. You've got freaking, and some of them are racist, actually.
Oh,
now that I think about it, like Lombre,
okay,
the, like, frog with a sombrero. You know, like a wetback.
Oh, okay, I wasn't... That's a reach. But it makes, like, it's one of those things where it's like, yes,
it's grass and water. A Mexican wetback cutting your grass doesn't really seem like that much of a reach to me. And then, you know, fucking the punching bag, Makuhita, and, you know, a lot of Gen 3 Pokemon were just really, really badly designed. They didn't look cool. They were interesting. There were some good designs in there. But overall, it just was less satisfying. The worst offense was that not only did they like scale down, like you couldn't visit Johto or Kanto again,
right?
But you couldn't even catch Johto or Kanto Pokemon in. And that pissed so many people off, they had to make Fire Red and Leaf Green and Pokemon Coliseum so you could get Generation 1 and 2 Pokemon in the game.
Yeah.
So that was a disappointment for me.
I agree with you on the game stuff, totally. The only, I enjoyed the aesthetics of the game just because, for me, it was the transition to the Game Boy, and everything looked crisper and clearer.
Oh yeah, everything looked good, but there's more to a game than graphics.
I know, but that's the big thing that resonates with me.
And they made your character have a father. That's a long-standing tradition in Pokemon. You do not have a father.
That's a long-standing tradition in JRPGs. Or Japanese.
Whenever I played that game, it was like, oh, your dad's here. I'm like, I have no father. I don't know who this Norman fellow is, but he's not my dad.
That would have been... I did like that he was a gym leader, though.
Yeah, it was cool, but they made him the 5th gym and super pushover-y.
Yeah, because they wanted to get a slacking in as early as possible.
Oh my god, slacking. Now there's a lazy design and a terrible Pokemon.
Lazy, but on point in that it's lazy.
Yeah, it's true. But the design should not be described as lazy. On the topic of RPGs, and since we mentioned it earlier, Bioshock 2 was pretty disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
It was not as good as Bioshock 1. I mean, it was cool to play as a Big Daddy, but that was the only draw to that game. The story and overall gameplay were just kind of weaker. Although I will say, it kind of cheapened it, kind of made it, less difficult. But it was cool to finally be able to use a weapon and a plasmid at the same time.
Not be limited there.
Yeah.
I think that's a general trend with horror stuff in general.
Yeah, they usually get worse. Dead Space 2 was worse than Dead Space 1.
Right, and Dead Space 3 was just Call of Duty.
Yeah, it was not really Dead Space at that point.
It's easier with horror movies because it's just we want to see another scare fest of our favorite characters, and it's not it's almost not meant to be scary at that point.
Yeah.
It's just here's our favorite creepy characters. You fell in love with them. Now let's get to see them in action again. Whee! But with video games, the goal is to try and get you to still be scared.
Yeah.
Which is why Resident Evil 5 was a big disappointment.
Although, on that note, Resident Evil really scaled up. It got progressively better until the jump from 4 to 5.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that's a disappointing sequel.
Yeah, it was. That's a good example.
They cracked the case, and then 5 came out.
Yeah, and then fucking quality took a swan dive.
That was the one in Africa, right?
Yeah, and then they come out with Resident Evil 6. It's look, you can be Leon and Chris in the same game. That's what you all wanted, right? No, you didn't want better gameplay or a more interesting story. You just wanted Leon and Chris in the same game, right? We're Capcom. Please buy this. We're running out of money.
I think you could tell that from when they started making boss rushes.
Oh my god. Yeah, thank God Sony was if you make Street Fighter V exclusive to the PlayStation and PC, we will help you with your money problems.
Good move on their part.
Yeah.
What else is bad in sequels?
Terminator 3. I'm not going to explain any further.
Reboots in general.
Reboots in general, yeah.
What's a good reboot? Star Trek. Star Trek is an okay reboot.
Yes, that was a pretty good one. I will say I liked the Star Trek from 2009. Into Darkness, however, not as good.
No.
I wouldn't call it a disappointment necessarily, because I feel like you have to have expectations to be disappointed.
Yeah. What other reboots can I think of? Shoot.
There's been plenty.
There's plenty. Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. Spider-Man 3. Yeah, there's a big disappointing sequel. Spider-Man 3. It was Spider-Man 2 was good, Spider-Man 1 was good, and we finally were going to get Venom. I was so pumped. 8-year-old me couldn't take it. Was I 8? I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's not important. But my favorite comic book character ever, at the time, he's still top 5, was going to be in the movie finally. And guess who they got to play him? Eric Foreman. Because when I think Eddie Brock, Olympic bodybuilder, I think Eric Foreman.
Played by Gopher
Wimpy Kid from that 70s show.
As douchebag.
And then that was the perfect example of superhero movies being too crowded. You had the Sandman, you had the New Goblin, and you had Venom, all vying for screen time. And it just all kind of crumbled in to this damp, confusing mess.
And then Amazing Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man 2 looked at that movie, then looked at Avengers, then looked at that movie, then looked at Avengers, and like, can we make a baby out of this?
Yeah. Oh my god, the Amazing Spider-Man, the first one, it was just like, where did all the length for this movie come from? Because there wasn't a whole lot of action. There wasn't a whole lot of character development. But it was still like a 2-hour movie. I don't know what they did in those 2 hours.
That's the greatest special effect of all.
Yeah, wasting your time. I didn't even bother to watch the Amazing Spider-Man 2. That was the first Spider-Man movie I didn't go to see.
And, like, it's just sad the way that... the reason that it exists, which was
so
placeholder money.
Yeah. Which they gave back to Marvel anyway.
Because they eventually realized, like, okay, you know what? It's just...
Could have saved us the pain of 2 terrible movies and just given it back to Marvel in the first place.
I wish they could have just, like, leased
And then we could
Marvel.
have had Spider-Man and the Wave 2 movies from Marvel, and they wouldn't have to, like, quickly get it out. They're not going to get it out before Civil War, but we could have had a Spider-Man movie before Civil War, and the whole thing would have made more sense.
Everything was just...
But no, we
I
can't
think
have nice things.
There was one disappointing sequel in the Marvel Universe for me.
Which one was that? Iron Man
Captain
2?
America. Yeah, Iron Man 2, not Captain America 2. Captain America 2 was fantastic.
Oh, yes.
Iron Man 2, just because it just wasn't as good.
Well, they intentionally made it not as good a movie to set up the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because when it started, it was like, okay, we have Marvel Studios, let's make an Iron Man movie. And Iron Man was so successful that they're like, ooh, I have a crazy idea. Let's make a whole bunch of movies and then connect them.
Man.
And then someone in the boardroom at Marvel was like, that's crazy enough to work. Fast track it.
Yep. Which was, it reminded me of...
Which is why I feel bad for Jon Favreau. Because he did an amazing job with the first Iron Man and the second Iron Man. And then they cut him out of the whole thing completely. He was relegated to, co-star in Iron Man 3.
It's a shame.
Poor guy.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe reminds me of... I feel like they got it at least in part from the DC animated universe.
Yes. Probably.
Which was that they were like...
That was the best thing DC's ever done outside of comic books.
That was...
It wasn't even DC. It was Bruce Timm and the other guy, who I can't remember right now. They're like, okay, we have a bunch of ideas for cartoons, and we're going to make them all. And they all turned out to be really good.
Yeah.
Even Superman, the animated series.
Solid.
That's the only, Superman stuff that I've ever enjoyed, was Justice League and Superman, the animated series.
Because they made it work.
They made it work. They did.
And also... They made Static Shock, which now I want to see stuff of. I enjoyed Static Shock, even though it was super cheesy.
I like Static Shock, but when I think about it, not only was it super cheesy, it was also kind of racist.
Like the one kid who's like, he's like the rich white kid who tries to get superpowers like all the black people.
Yeah.
So he gets like a super suit with little superpower bubbles on it.
Yeah.
And
fucking Rubber Band Man.
Rubber Band Man.
It's Rubber Band Man!
And his brother, who is literally a shadow.
Yeah.
Evan.
What color was Rubber Band Man's costume, you ask? I'll give you one guess. If you guess purple, it's because it's the obvious choice. But yes, you are correct.
With built-in cornrows. You remember those.
Yes. I'm so glad they took extra precaution to make sure his cornrows were maintained when he was in costume.
And his evil brother, who was Militia Shadow also still had cornrows.
Yeah. Freaking, remember Batman was evil to begin with, and then they made him a good guy because he was a popular character, I guess.
Let's just give him dyslexia and make him a cool guy. There's a full episode about...
a PSA on that.
Yep. And they did the school violence one.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I ever saw of Static Shock...
was the episode of the Justice League when they go into the future and Static Shock's an old man, yeah.
Okay, I didn't see that one because I watched everything on public TV, and they had Warner Brothers Television before it got cut off the air, and they canceled everything, and I was really sad. So the last thing I saw...
Before it became the CW.
Yeah. The last thing I remember of Static Shock in general was a promo that they used where it was him and Shaq. Real life, Shaq, space jammed into Static Shock cartoon. It was
Isn't that a reverse Space Jam? Because weren't the cartoon characters space jammed into real life?
God, I would not want to be that's like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh man, that's how you do Space Jam right. Is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I hated that movie as a kid, but I watched it last year. I'm like, oh my god, this movie was fantastic.
Just resonates, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the sequels I can think of.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Maybe Mega Man Battle Network 4. Just gonna throw that one out there.
I'm just gonna float this very obscure, very deep sequel out there.
It's because so the Battle Network series was, let's take Mega Man and change him from a robot to an internet program. So instead of taking place in the robot future...
Mega Man.exe.
Yep. It takes place in the internet future. And they had a great system. It was a neat RPG that was an action RPG. And it had its cool system of you ran around the grid and stuff, and you did battle chips and all that jazz. And then they were like, all right, 3 games in, we finished the first serious-ist arc of all time.
Right.
Mega Man dies in that one in Mega Man Battle Network 3. Spoilers.
Does he die, or is it a healing coma?
No, he dies, and they have to salvage his body together.
We're contractually obligated by DC to work the phrase "healing coma" into all our broadcasts.
He's rebooting. But yeah, no, they he fuses with Lan, and they die horribly in the internet. And
oh yeah, I forgot the kid's name was Lan.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they used a USB cable.
Reached far on that one, didn't you?
But yeah, and the last name was Hikari, which is light in Japanese. So it was Lan Hikari. Yep.
Right.
And then Mega Man's, when he was a baby, when he was a human and didn't die, and they turned his brain into a robot.
Yeah, this is all sounding very Japanese right now.
Yeah, because that happened. His name was Hub, so it was Lan and Hub.
Wow.
Oh, it was great. He was more than great. Also, Proto Man
Frosted Flakes territory right here.
Also, Proto Man used his sword. That was fun. But anyways, right. So they did 3, and he did the cool redemption arc. This is the end of the series. I could totally see it. And they had a great post game to sound like another video game sequel here.
Yeah.
And then they said, all right, fuck it. What do we do? Let's turn on Dark Alter Ego and Tournament Arc filler. Both at the same time.
Okay. Tournament arcs can be good. I would say the Dark Tournament was the best arc in Yu Yu Hakusho.
Okay, that's fine. But tournament arcs can also be used as a grand filler.
Yes.
Especially in Mega Man 4, because you had to play the game twice to get all the characters. Because you only played certain tournaments twice, and it was RNG who determined who you'd fight in the next match.
Oh dear God! So
gameplay was determined by RNG. Also, you had dark chips, which for a kid, they're supposed to basically be internet crack. You use them, and they're really powerful, but they just give you debilitating consequences. So usually you have 1500 HP. There's one that's 1500 HP, but you have a healing item, and the dark healing item heals you by 1,000, but then it ticks you down really quickly.
Right.
Think of poison, in a regular a Pokemon game, poison,
right.
But sped up by 100.
Mm-hmm.
So you had about a minute to finish
poison
the fight.
Stacks.
Yeah.
Does this stack?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
And then you get random bugs in your program where your Mega Buster doesn't work anymore, and then everything you moves on turns to poison tiles, and then sometimes you just have a spaz attack.
I'm seasoned.
And then at the final end, if you... Oh, also, Mega Man turns into, like, an addict. Like, his face panel goes from, like, happy to, like, dark and, like...
Something tells me the writer for the Mega Man Battle Network games just was in a very dark place in his life.
Oh, yeah. And, like... Oh, and there's... You also lose 1 out of your max HP. Your max HP. Every time you use a dark chip.
Jesus.
So by the time, like, you're in the end of the game, you're just this husk of a dude... And then you have to fight your shadow form, which the more dark chips you use, the stronger he gets.
You had a lot on this game. I'm surprised you didn't lead with this.
I just thought of it. Also, you get into a meteor. You jack into a meteor and go in the meteor internet to stop the meteor from crashing into Earth.
Oh, God.
And then you fight Duo.
That's the most Japanese thing I've ever heard. Meteor internet. And on that note, that's going to wrap it up for us this week. Keep tuned for those FTLs. And don't forget to listen next week. We are still on SoundCloud, and we'll be on iTunes at some point as soon as I figure out how to make an RSS feed. So, look out for that.
Yep. Can I say bye now?
Yeah.
Bye.